are desperately trying to keep each other and everyone else in their care as safe as possible.
He is not comfortable, he'll definitely need mental health act assessment.
It's Wednesday morning, and the A&E team at King George's Hospital in Ilford, East London, are already caring for 5 mental health patients on top of their usual acute workload. One patient wants to leave and is becoming increasingly distressed. She's already been waiting 12 hours. A security team is here to de-escalate the situation. The woman is being held under the Lack of Capacity Act and won't be allowed to leave.
We see about 150 to 200 patients a day through this emergency department, but we're getting on average about 15 to 20 mental health presentations to the department. Some of these patients can be really difficult to manage and really complex. If a patient's in crisis and wants to harm themselves, there's lots of things in this area that you can harm yourself with, so it's trying to balance that risk and make sure every emergency department in the country is deemed a place of safety, but there is a lot of risk that comes with emergency departments because they're not purpose-built for mental health patients.
Ajay Kumar and his wife are waiting patiently by their son's bedside. He suffered from psychotic episodes since starting university in 2018. And he can become unpredictable and violent.
So when you came 2 days ago, how quickly was he seen and did he get the help he needed?
Let's say we came 3 o'clock, he came 3:30. Then he stayed away, say, section.
He was sectioned?
In section 3, which is 6 months in the hospital.
But he's here now?
He's still here now because they haven't got the bed. They sectioned him, he should be insecure now, yes? He shouldn't go out in the public. Last night, he ran away at night.
From hospital?
Yes, and he walked all the way home. Took him 4.5 hours to come home. I'm in Ilford, 3.5 miles away. Even though he's totally mental, he still found his way home. And he was so tired. And the police was looking for him.
So now you and your wife will have to sit by his bedside until he's found a mental health bed. Yeah. And that could take days.
Could be days, I don't know how many. They are not telling us anything.
New Freedom of Information data shows that over the last 5 years, more than 1.3 million people in a mental health crisis presented to A&E departments. And that's expected to be a significant underestimate, with only around a quarter of English trusts providing data. And for these patients, waits of 12 hours or more for a mental health bed have increased by more than 380%. Over the last decade, the number of overnight beds in mental health units declined by almost 3,700. That's around 17%.
We've seen, particularly over the last few years, a real increase in the number of people in mental health crisis coming into A&E for support. I don't know if this is because of the pandemic or wider economic pressures, but what we're seeing every day is more and more people coming here as their first port of call. If you get someone who's really distressed, someone who's perhaps experiencing psychosis, etc., I'm seeing increasing numbers of complaints from other patients and their families about the environment they've had to wait in. And they're not blaming the mental health patients for being here, but what they're saying is being in a really busy accident emergency with ambulances, with somebody who's highly distressed, and you're sat there with an elderly relative or a sick child or whatever. It's hard for everyone. There's no blame in this. It's something we've got to work together to try to fix.
The King George, like other hospitals around the country, is having to construct makeshift mental health spaces to try and tackle the problem.
So this is one of 2 rooms that when we were undergoing our works, we recognised, it was about 3 years ago, we recognised mental health was causing us more of an issue. So we've had 2 rooms kind of purpose-built. They're as compliant as we can get them with a mental health room, and they're ligature light as opposed to ligature free. They're under 24-hour CCTV surveillance.
They're reinforced doors, aren't they?
Reinforced doors, and so that they do lock. There are obviously 2 doors, so there is a method of escape for staff if needed to be.
It's quite unusual to have a dedicated mental health suite within an emergency setting in an acute hospital. But that just tells you about the demand on
Yes,
services
and
there?
we've got, as I said, we've got 2. If I had my time back again, I'd probably have 4 or 5 or 6, because these have helped us so much in the department with the really difficult patients. Yes.
Joe is ex-military. He now works as part of the security team, helping to keep staff and patients safe. De-escalating mental health patients in crisis can involve restraining, isolating, or even sedating them. His team monitor the A&E CCTV from this control centre.
I've lost count the amount of time that I've been assaulted. You need to understand, sometimes the waiting, and I mean the waiting, drags on and on and on for days. We have patients here for over a week and section, and they cannot find a bed to put the patient, for the patient to go to. And that patient become aggressive, and we have to try to slow them down, try to keep them as calm as possible.
Patients in a mental health crisis and attending hospital are stuck between 2 failing systems. A shortage of specialist beds means they're left untreated in a hospital not designed to help them. And they're failed by a social care network overwhelmed by demand and unable to provide the early intervention care needed. The Department of Health and Social Care told Sky News, "We recognise that people with mental health needs aren't always getting the care they deserve, and incidents like this are unacceptable. That's why we're investing £26 million in crisis support, recruiting more staff, expanding access to talking therapies, and working to reduce waiting times through our plan for change." And NHS England told us most A&Es now have 24/7 psychiatric liaison teams, so patients can get mental health support alongside physical care. The NHS is also working with local authorities to help mental health patients leave hospital as soon as they're ready, freeing up space. Ajay Kumar's son is one of those falling through the cracks.
When he's having a psychotic episode, you find it difficult to access help?
The only thing we can access is the emergency. Emergency is only there for the people who have other issues, not the mental health. There's nothing for mental health here.
That must be really hard for you to see.
Yeah, for me as mentally as well, no, it doesn't help me as well, and my wife as well.
Ashish Joshi, Sky News at the King George's Hospital in Ilford.
Well, disturbing scenes there from that hospital in Ilford. Let's talk about this in more detail with Dr. Sarah Hughes, Chief Executive of mental health charity Mind. Thank you so much for joining us on the programme tonight. You'll have watched our health correspondent's special report there. Really distressing scenes for everyone involved, but scenes that aren't particular to just that hospital.
No, sadly. I mean, firstly, I'd like to say thank you to Sky News for doing this report. It's incredibly important insight into what's really happening. People with very serious mental health challenges are experiencing such significant delays, really extraordinary scenes there you can see. We know one of our wonderful campaigners waited 87 hours on a stretcher when she was incredibly distressed. And so these are scenes happening up and down the country. And I'm afraid to say, whilst I am devastated to see them, I'm not surprised.
Yeah, and you heard a father there in Ashish Joshi's report, his son in that A&E department for psychotic episodes. And they were discussing about what help there is available. And he essentially said, you know, when his son is really bad and they cannot cope, the only service that will pick up the phone, that will help them, is the emergency services. That's the state of mental health provision in the UK today.
I mean, look, I'm afraid he's right in many circumstances. There are crisis cafes, there are sanctuaries around the country, there are, you know, all sorts of services, but at nowhere near the level that we need. We are seeing, you know, thousands and thousands of people go into A&E every month for very serious mental health challenges. And this could be resolved quite easily by beefing up what's available in the community, by making sure that community mental health health services are resourced so that people are caught far earlier, that we don't hit crisis, that they're able to get the support they need well before they get into trouble. And I think that we know what works. We know that with proper investment that we could avoid this situation. These scenes are, scandalous for our country, aren't they? And, we know that they're preventable. And so that's, I think, the position that we're coming from at Mind.
Yeah, and all the staff and all the patients involved, not apportioning any blame, those who have mental illnesses. There's a level of understanding there, but a frustration, because it's clearly evident to everyone involved that an A&E department is not the right environment for somebody who is presenting with mental health problems. The government say that new measures are coming in. There are longer-term plans in their plan for change to support the NHS, to support social care. In fact, they're investing in emergency mental health provision in A&E departments. Describe to me how, in the meantime, until those come into effect, because we know how long this can take, how organisations like yours are stepping in to plug the gap.
So we have over 100 local minds around the country, many of which are offering crisis services, crisis response services, but also working with people every single day to help them kind of manage those very difficult symptoms. We're also campaigning for change. We need to see the government really understand the consequences of under-resourced mental health services. We know that patients like Emma, the person that we're talking to regularly, that they want to live fulfilling lives. They want to be able to be with families, they want to be in work, they want to be in their community. But fundamentally, without mental health support, we're not enabling them to thrive. And in fact, we're putting them into incredibly vulnerable situations day in, day out. They are carrying the risk here. And, we know that mental health staff in A&Es are also really struggling. They want to do a good job and they can't. They're not resourced to.
Yeah. We heard also in Ashish's report that demand for mental health services is increasing. Are you worried that the offerings from the government and the NHS are not going to match this steady rise in demand that we're seeing?
We already know that they don't and they won't. We are expecting a real terms cut in terms of the funding around mental health going forward. We are not convinced or persuaded that we've got the share of spend that's right for mental health. We're not at parity of esteem or, equality in that respect. We're concerned that the plans for mental health are not ambitious enough. We're not really persuaded, I think, that the policies surrounding mental health either are going to help benefit reform and so on. So all of these things at the moment demonstrate a lack of understanding around what would make the difference. And so we're really, really asking the government to think carefully about the steps that they're taking. And frankly, investment is needed. And many times we say it's not new money that's needed. We can just do things differently. Not in mental health, we can't. We need investment.
Dr. Sarah Hughes, Chief Executive of Mind Charity. Thank you so much for your time this evening, reacting to our special report there. Thank you. Well, if you've been affected by that story, you can contact the Samaritans at any time. Their number is 116123, or you can email joe@samaritans.org. Now, an update for you on a story that we brought you last night. We spoke to the family of a Scottish man who had been missing for a week after going on a stag do in a popular Portuguese tourist resort. Sadly, less than 24 hours on from that appeal by the sisters of Greg Monks on this programme, a body has now been found in the area of Albufeira, where Greg was last seen. Our correspondent Ashna Hurnag has been following this story for us today. Ashna, no confirmation yet that this is Greg Monks, but a body has been found and the family have given a reaction to that.
They have. This is the update that Greg Monks' family truly feared yesterday when they gave that appeal on this programme. They were adamant that they were doing all they could to try and find him, and the police were doing all they could. Police in Portugal have been searching for the 38-year-old for about a week now. You know, this was meant to be a stag do that he was on. His friend's stag do, it's understood that he was a groomsman. It was 5 days long, but it was on that first night out. At about 2 a.m, he told his mates that he was going to go back to the apartment. And he was spotted twice on CCTV in the early hours, sort of Tuesday going into Wednesday morning, on CCTV in sort of an area of quite rough terrain. And very sadly, police in Portugal releasing a statement today saying that they'd found a body in what they have described as a vacant and uneven ground. And the sisters of Greg Monks, who spoke to you yesterday, Gillian and Carlin, they have taken to Facebook, to social media, for this tribute, thanking people who had been helping throughout that time. They have said they didn't think it would end like this. We are absolutely devastated. Greg was an amazing boy who everyone thought so highly of, was friends with everyone and always made us laugh. We will miss him every day. I just want to thank absolutely everyone for everything they've done, from sharing their posts to out looking, phoning everywhere to get CCTV. The support we've received from everyone, it goes on to say, has been out of this world. If love could have saved you, you would live forever. Miss you forever, brother. They now await their brother's post-mortem examination. That's due to happen in the next few days. And meanwhile, they are being supported by the Foreign Office. And we also know that officials from the Foreign Office are in touch with local authorities on their behalf.
OK. Ashna, thank you. Ashna Hurnag there with the latest thoughts very much with the Monks family tonight. Thank you. The new head of the Criminal Cases Review Commission, Dame Vera Bird, has vowed to win back public trust following a series of high-profile miscarriages of justice. The commission was heavily criticised in the wake of the Andrew Malkinson case. He spent 17 years in prison for a crime that he didn't commit, and a damning review found it had repeatedly failed to act on opportunities to help clear his name. Dame Vera sat down with our home editor, Jason Farrell.
Andrew Malkinson was wrongly convicted of rape and spent 17 years in jail, when for most of that time DNA evidence had emerged that could have cleared his name. He'd applied 3 times to the Criminal Case Review Commission but was rejected twice on cost-benefit grounds. It's one of several cases leading to calls for root and branch reform of the CCRC from a committee of MPs in Westminster, and the woman now tasked with turning things around is its new chair, Dame Vera Bird.
In your view, how bad are things?
I think it's in a worrying position. There have been, in the last 10 years, 4 separate inquiries into it. They all find the same things, that they don't communicate with applicants, they are reluctant to challenge the Court of Appeal, they look for reasons not to refer rather than to refer, and are quite often, incompetent.
The CCRC was set up in the wake of wrongful convictions such as the Birmingham 6. But MPs say it's failing to tackle miscarriages of justice. The previous chair, Helen Pitcher, was forced to resign in January. Chief Executive Karen Neller told the committee they needed a strong replacement.
We don't have that figurehead, and without that figurehead, I think it is difficult for the organisation.
But that replacement didn't think much of her evidence.
I didn't find her impressive. I was really quite concerned about, well, first of all, the kind of fairly sketchy way in which she even allowed that they got it wrong in Malkinson, and these assertions that she was sorry that people only judged them by the mistakes, and they all took them very seriously, but actually they were otherwise doing a very good job.
In February this year, the CCRC received an application from Lucy Letby, the former nurse convicted of murdering 7 babies and attempting to murder 7 others. Such a high-profile case at such a significant moment of flux.
Do you think it's capable of dealing with a complex case like Letby?
Remember, I'm very new to it. It will need complexity. It will need a team. It will need the readiness to commission reports, I would guess, from what's been said about the lack of scientific value in some of the things that were asserted. So it's going to be a very complex task.
The Baird inquiry into Greater Manchester Police last year strongly criticised the force. She has a reputation for exposing hard truths to institutions. But now she is the institution and needs to drive the changes. Jason Farrell, Sky News.
Still to come on the UK tonight. 18 years on, investigators continue this latest search for Madeleine McCann, close to where she was last seen in Praia-da-Luz. Plus, the court is given details of a live-streamed arson attack on a warehouse, including links to the outlawed Wagner Group.
We arrive. A secret hospital hidden in the Myanmar jungle, treating the victims of this bloody war.
This is Myanmar today. Its military rulers don't want the world to see, but we have.
I fight for my own future. I fight for my generation's future.
This is an actual crime.
They don't care for that.
Myanmar army is only a couple of kilometers away. So this is a major humanitarian disaster.
A team of investigators have continued to examine ground near abandoned buildings in southern Portugal on day 2 of the latest search for Madeleine McCann. The then 3-year-old disappeared while on holiday with her family in Praia-da-Luz in 2007. Sky's Dan Whitehead has this report from the scene.
Shifting rubble, cutting through dense shrubland, the search is well underway. They are looking for any clues that lead to Madeleine McCann's whereabouts.
Well, this is one of 3 of the derelict farm buildings which we've seen police searching on day 2. They've been emptying buckets of rubble from inside the buildings, and they've been using chainsaws in dense undergrowth as well.
With the rubble cleared, there are reports ground-penetrating radar will scan these floors. But 18 years on from when she went missing, police won't comment on just what intelligence has brought them back.
They use identification work if any bone fragment appears, and this is done in the laboratory unit. Using equipment in the field, it is possible to detect whether there are bone fragments present in the geographical areas that are the target of the search.
When the 3-year-old went missing in 2007, the world's media descended on the village of Praia-da-Luz. Nearly 2 decades on, the impact in the resort can still be felt. Just metres from the holiday apartment where Maddie was sleeping. Karen from the UK runs a beauty spa.
I think people are really upset about it because it just keeps dragging down Praia-da-Luz. It's all people think of when they, hear of Praia-da-Luz where Maddie went missing. All I've ever heard about is how badly everyone was affected. and it took a long, long time to recover. So this keeps dragging it all up again.
The search here is due to finish on Friday. One officer told me off camera that so far nothing has been found. There are 2 days left to uncover something somewhere that might just lead to Madeleine. Dan Whitehead, Sky News in Lagos, Portugal.
A court has heard how a group of arsonists live-streamed their attack on a business supplying Starlink satellite equipment to Ukraine after being recruited by the Russian Wagner paramilitary group. Around £1 million worth of damage was caused by the blaze in East London last March. 6 men are on trial. Sky's Sadia Chowdhury has been following the start of this trial and joins us now with more details. Sadia.
Well, this trial is part of the first case to look at allegations made under the 2023 National Security Act. That is the UK's new counter-espionage laws. And as well as the 6 men who are on trial, there are 2 other men who are connected with this. And this is really interesting because these 2 men have already pleaded guilty to offences in relation to this fire. So they are Jake Reeves, who is 23 years old. He's pleaded guilty to agreeing to accept a material benefit from a foreign intelligence service. He's there with the plain background. And Dylan Earl, who is 20 with the ruler behind him, pleaded guilty to aggravated arson and preparatory conduct. The CPS says that by pleading guilty to these offences, these men have already accepted that they have worked for or on behalf of a foreign power and have accepted cash from a foreign power. The CPS also says that they will call a witness during the trial who will confirm that the Wagner group, with which that they allege that these men were in contact, has been under the direct command of the Russian government in activities including sabotage. The jury was also told that Dylan Earl had recruited Jake Reeves, who then went on to organise the arson attack that took place in March last year, of which these 6 men are on trial. So why was this warehouse in particular targeted? Well, the prosecution today claimed that it is because of its connection to Ukraine, that the business is conducted at these premises. The 2 units of the warehouse were to do with logistics and delivering goods to Ukraine, including Starlink satellite equipment. Starlink, of course, is the world's biggest satellite constellation, and the company that owns the premises had received between 2 to 4 pallets of goods every day, and in those, each pallet would contain 20 to 30 Starlink devices. In the dock today, the 6 men sat and watched the evidence being given. Sometimes they leaned forwards or backwards and really cranked their necks to look at the video that was being shown, because the jury was shown CCTV footage and also maps showing how the defendants, the prosecution alleges, travelled to the site of the arson attack, and also how they then got out of the car. 2 of the 4 men got out of the car to go and set that fire. They all deny the charges against them.
Sadia, thank you. Sadia Chowdhury with the update. A safeguarding review into the death of a 3-year-old boy who was starved by his parents have found that he became invisible and lost from the site of child services. Abiya Yash Arayala died in 2020 and was buried in the garden of his family's home in Birmingham. He had limited contact with a number of professionals, including health visitors and police. Ambidla's correspondent Lisa Dowd has this report.
This little boy, so full of character, was not only failed by his parents, but also the authorities that should have helped him. In spite of contact with a health visitor, social worker and police, no one was able to prevent the death of 3-year-old Abiya Yash Arayala, starved by his mum and dad, who followed a restricted vegan diet.
He wasn't seen by a single professional for the last 18 months of his life, so between the age of 2 and 3.5. And that's in a context of his parents having a belief system that meant that they rejected most social norms.
As well as malnutrition, Abiya suffered broken bones, rickets and anemia. He died of a respiratory illness in 2020. His parents buried him in the garden of their home in Birmingham, and so invisible was he to the authorities that his body wasn't discovered until 3 years later. His mother and father, Ty and Naomi Yashara Yalla, were convicted of causing or allowing his death and neglect.
I have the right to record all this going on. Lovely. So you're going to step into my property. You're stepping into the property without my consent.
They led a chaotic lifestyle, moving from London to Birmingham and later living in a shipping container and a caravan in Somerset.
If you need to leave something, leave. Can you read this, please? Go now. Do not touch me. Do not touch anything of mine. I'm not touching you.
They followed a belief system that rejected the services of the state, including healthcare and traditional medicine.
I even offered to feed the little boy. He was very aggressive with me, the father. The mother was under his thumb. It's so sad how the little boys ended up. You know, it could have been prevented.
The report said that professionals needed to be confident to ask questions about different cultures without fear of being perceived as discriminatory. It is yet another story of child neglect, horrific in its own right, but so similar to the cases of other children who have been let down by the authorities. Every time a review like this happens, a lack of curiosity on the part of professionals is almost always highlighted. In what contact Abir had with professionals, very little detail was recorded about him.
Parents went to great lengths to be off grid, not engage with any authorities, and unless there were safeguarding or child protection issues, professionals, other agencies, universal agencies like health, etc., don't have any statutory powers to do anything different.
Following Abir's case, a new team has been set up in the city to better monitor children considered out of sight of the authorities. Lisa Dowd, Sky News, Birmingham.
Still to come on the UK Tonight, we'll hear from a resident of the Warwickshire town invaded by flies and troubling locals for years. And star of Steps, H, will be on the show to tell us why his Welsh music festival, Cowcella, has been forced to rebrand. Hello, welcome back. Now, residents in Royal Leamington Spa are being plagued by an infestation of flies, which has been invading every spring now for the past 3 years. The swarms have been linked to a new recycling plant in the area, with people saying that they've ended up being prisoners in their own homes, unable to open windows or to do anything outside without being completely covered in them. Well, I'm joined now by Leamington resident Heather, who is a spokesperson for Rapid Leamington. That's Residents Against Pollution and Industrial Damage. Heather, we saw some of the images there that have been posted by residents online. Just give me an idea of how bad things are where you are.
It really is apocalyptic whenever the flies are at their maximum volume. This has been going on for such a long time and people have been suffering for too long. For your viewers at home, imagine waking up after a sleep-deprived night, having been crawled on all night in your sleep by flies, opening your window and having to close it again quickly because of the foul stench outside, and then going downstairs to try and prepare food for your family or loved ones and not being able to do so because there's flies crawling over every surface, and you're just unable to do it. It's just so unhygienic.
Your local MP has estimated this is affecting between 8,000 and 10,000 residents. And I talk about the flies coming back every spring. Actually, it's pretty much all year round. It just peaks in the spring. Am I right?
You're right. So people have made that assumption that they might go away. They don't actually disappear until November each year. When this started, we thought we wouldn't have to suffer more than a month. We thought it was so severe. Surely somebody's going to do something about it. Yet 2.5 years in, this is still going on. The smell wasn't as bad the first year. It is now all year round. The wind direction makes it sporadic, but it's there and it's intense and horrid for the thousands of people that are being impacted by this.
Yeah, it's so bad that some residents have actually sold up and moved out of the area. This has been going on so long. What is the source?
Warwick District Council confirmed in the first week of the complaints in April 2023 that it was the new plastic recycling plants that are Berry Polymers, who've rebranded twice now and are currently trading under the name of Amcor. We appreciate that other bodies are having to source the evidence to take action against them, but the strongest argument is that none of the outfall, as we call it, existed at all before they began operations in January 2023.
We're just looking at more images of flies inside people's homes in the area. And of course, you know, summer's coming, you don't want to go outside. I would imagine it's not just affecting, you know, people's home life, but their work life as well. What's it like to be a local business in that area, particularly if you're, say, a pub with a garden, for example?
It's very tricky being spokesperson on this, as you can imagine, because this has been hugely detrimental to our local economy. That's secondary to public health. There's thousands of very angry and upset people out in the communities that are impacted by this. There's vulnerable and elderly people who are suffering and not knowing what to do and how to keep themselves healthy. There's families who are fostering newborn babies who are having to put them in cots with fly nets over them. And yes, if you're lucky to have a garden and you want to go and sit on it on a day that the smell's horrendous or the flies are bad, you just have to sit inside, lock the windows and the doors and stay inside. It's not right. And it's that intense that some people have reported vomiting in their cars as they pass the factory as well. It's widespread, about 3 to 4 miles is what we estimate, and impacting just so many people, and it's awful to see.
Yeah, it sounds hellish. You know, it's been described as a nightmare, ruining lives, and you've painted a picture of what people have been living and working through for the past nearly 3 years. You're right, this is a public health issue. What are the council and the Environment Agency doing about this?
Well, you would think whenever you first make a complaint of such a substantial nature, when it's impacting people so significantly, that something would be done very quickly about it. However, as I keep saying, 2.5 years in, we never thought we would still be saying the same thing and the problem to have worsened. So Warwick District Council essentially should never have granted planning permission, as they did, for a plastic recycling plant to operate in such a highly populated residential area that is the gorgeous and beautiful Leamington Spa town that we love. It's a small industrial area hugged by a residential area, and it shouldn't have been granted. However, their ability to now make substantial difference is very limited. They're limited in their powers. So the only people that can make change are the Environment Agency, who are the licensing body who enable their permit and enable them to continue operations.
The thought is that this recycling plant, a lot of the materials coming in to be recycled aren't washed properly. So they get to the recycling plant and it's festering, and that's creating this smell and the flies. That is the sort of reasoning behind, why that's happening. Listen, Heather, thank you so much for coming on to talk about this. As you said, thousands of you are affected, and it literally is ruining lives. Some people literally having to sell up and move. It's been going on for nearly 3 years. Heather, thank you. They're spokesperson for the residents of Royal Leamington Spa. We have had a statement from the Environment Agency which says this: since the 1st of April, we have inspected the Bury Circular Polymers site 4 times, completed assessments for odour in the local area, and identified a permit breach where the company was not following correct operating techniques. We are working with the site and the council to resolve the issue and have required improvements which are being implemented and monitored. Still to come on the programme, we'll find out what's the beef over a tiny Welsh music festival. We'll be speaking to H from Steps on why he's had to rebrand his event Cowchella.
What might happen if Russia attacked the UK?
This is clearly an enormous show of force. It is definitely out of the ordinary.
We ran a war game with former ministers back in the hot seat.
Ben Wallace.
Amber Rudd.
Jack Straw.
It's the kind of war game that's genuinely tested inside government.
The Russians are signalling that there may be an attack.
Russia knows our weaknesses, but do you? I'm Deborah Haynes. From Sky News and Tortoise, this is The War Game. Listen wherever you get your podcasts.
Mayhem in the Middle East, rippling in America's West.
Get back! Get back!
The resolve of these protesters is now being seriously tested. I saw police being forced or pushing young men and women to the ground as they made almost 100 arrests.
None of this is a peaceful protest.
I'm Martha Kellner, and I'm Sky's US correspondent based here in Los Angeles. How are you feeling?
I am angry. It is an anti-woman agenda.
Will the cold affect your voters?
Well, we have a lot of tremendous support, but it's nasty out there.
Anybody else?
Should the Defence Secretary and the Vice...
Wait, what country are you
from? From the UK.
Okay, we don't give a crap about your opinion and your reporting. Why don't you go back to your country where you have a major migrant problem?
President Biden, do you trust President Xi? President Biden says that this meeting went well. He said real progress was made on a whole host of issues. Will your candidates win?
I hope so. I think they will. I think they're great candidates.
There's no doubt that Kamala Harris and her team are harnessing the power of social media. Do you think Kamala is brat?
Kamala's brat.
Are you scared?
Yeah, we were scared. It was terrible. Strong wind, building tearing down.
As them say, God works, so we can't do nothing.
The people here know that worse storms may well be on their way. Sky News, get the full story first. Free wherever you get your news. Ghislaine Maxwell has pleaded not guilty to all 6 charges against her. Mum, how are you feeling today?
Jeffrey said, you answer to Ghislaine, you just don't cross her.
Welcome back. Now, festival season is nearly upon us, and in the Welsh town of Cowbridge, they have been gearing up for their very own event, Cowchella, organised by none other than H from Steps. However, ticket sales had to be stopped and social accounts deleted after they were forced to rebrand following legal complaints from Coachella, the original giant music festival based in California. Well, here to tell us more is star of Steps, Ian H. Watkins. It suddenly occurred to me as I was about to talk to you, do I call you Ian or H?
You can call me H. I've been called H since I was 9, so please, H is good.
That's how I've known you since the 90s, so it'd be a bit weird for me to call you Ian. H, let's talk about...
That's the scary thing.
Oh, right, oh gosh. Right, let's talk about Coachella. What's Coachella's beef with it?
So we do a lot in our beautiful little market town called Cowbridge. So it's Pride Month. We organise Pride. We have an incredible parade. We put a panto on at Christmas time, and it's all to make events accessible for families that can't afford big prices, going to Cardiff or to London or to California. So our little festival was a play on words of Coachella. So we were Coachella because we live in Cowbridge. And a few days ago, we woke up to all of our socials being deleted. We had an official complaint from Coachella in California to our ticket provider. So we have very respectfully had to rebrand. We've had to regroup and relaunch. So that's what's happened in the last 2 days. But everybody's talking about Cowbridge. So, we're trying to turn it into a positive. And we've renamed the festival now, as you can see, Moo La La.
You know what, H? I think I prefer it. I think they've done you a favour. I like Moo La La. And also, Coachella, have they actually been in touch with you personally? Because it seems a little bit mean-spirited, doesn't it? Glastonbury doesn't mind Glastonbury. There are lots of these kind of play on words when it comes to smaller festivals.
I mean, that's why we thought we'd be okay, because, for us, we're a tribute act festival. If you can't afford £400 to go to Coachella, then maybe you can afford £16 to see the Ariana Grande tribute in Moo La La. It's all about a community event. I've not actually spoken to them directly, but they clearly have been in touch with our ticket provider and all of our socials. So all of those are down, and we have rebranded now with Moo La La.
Like I said, I like the name, so I think they've done you a favour. And let's face it, all publicity is good publicity, H.
We had lots of names. So one of them was Please Don't Stop the Music. That was one. Mighty Moopla was another one. So I think, Moo La La we're sticking with.
I like it. Do you know what? My producer, Mike, who wrote Beef over Welsh Music Festival, our little strap down there, is giggling away in my ear at this. He loves a pun, loves a pun. So we're really pleased to have you on tonight. But let's just talk about festival season, because you make a really good and valid point. You do a lot for your local community. You've played gigs and festivals all over the place, some of the biggest stages in the UK and beyond. It is about making it accessible, isn't it? Because, you said £400 to go to Coachella and the rest. I mean, we're looking at, Glastonbury. Some people are paying tens of thousands to go. So how big a deal is it for you to give back to the community and bring them a little bit of joy for 16 quid?
Yeah, it's really important because, Cowbridge is a beautiful market town, but the towns and villages that surround us, they're not as affluent. So it's really important to keep it accessible, family friendly. It's a family orientated event. You can bring a picnic blanket. You can watch amazing tribute acts that we've handpicked. No, they're not the real deal, but they're amazing looky-likeys.
Are you performing? You're the real deal. We're going to get the real H on stage.
Well, you're going to get me on stage, but I'm presenting along with my amazing friends Owain Wynne-Evans and the gorgeous Claire Sweeney. So we're all hosts. We'll be introducing the acts. It's going to be a brilliant day. And like you said, all publicity is great publicity. Ticket sales are now flying through the roof. We couldn't be happier. We've turned a negative into a massive positive.
Oh, well, listen, and it's inviting people to your lovely part of the world as well. Listen, good luck with it. Moo La La, on to bigger and better things. Coachella, been and gone. Good luck with it, H. Really good to talk to you tonight.
Thank you, Sarah-Jane. Take care. Bye-bye.
Good luck. Thank you so much. Right, OK, we're going to have a look at the sport now. Chris is here. Hello, Chris. Sorry, getting rather carried away with H from steps there.
Always wanted to follow H.
Oh, well, there you go, see. He was your support act, essentially.
I'm going to have to reach for the stars.
All right, that was S Club 7.
Was it?
Yeah, Tragedy.
Sorry. Oh, okay,
there you go. I got you there. I got you there, Chris. Don't test me on my
They just all merge into one, that era.
They do, don't they? They do. But we're going to talk about the Lionesses, another big name leaving. There's been a rush for the exit door over the last few days. What's going on?
Tragedy, for sure. Millie Bright pulled out of the Euros a day before Serena Wiegmann is due to name her squad. So Millie Bright, if you followed the last 3 major tournaments, you'll know her. She's the big defender, the experienced defender, 88 caps worth of experience, brilliant partnership with captain Leah Williamson. She was a starting player in the World Cup 2019, got to the semi-finals, lost to the USA. She was a starting defender in the Euros 3 years ago. They won it. And she was the captain when they got to the World Cup final a year later in 2023 because Leah Williamson wasn't there. But after a brilliant season with Chelsea where they've won the treble, she played 36 times. That's obviously taken its toll on her. She posted on Instagram today, it's one of the hardest decisions I've ever had to make. My pride and ego tells me to go, but I think the team and fans deserve more, and she's pulling out to preserve her mental and physical well-being.
You know, and a lot of her Lioness teammates went on social media to wish her well.
Yeah.
You know, and they support her in that. But as I said, you know, lots of big names leaving over the last few days. Mary Earps, Frank Kirby. What does this mean for Serena Wiegmann? Because she's going to have to name a squad soon, isn't she, for the Euros this summer?
Tomorrow.
Oh, really soon then?
Yeah, and so the last 8 days, you mentioned Mary Earps, the goalkeeper from the Euros win. She's out. Fran Kirby played in that tournament. She's out. And now Millie Bright. That's 218 caps worth of experience. And not only that, more importantly, if they get deep into the tournament, it's 3 players who can say to the rest of them, this is how you win a tournament, and they're not going to be there. They've got Netherlands, France and Wales in a very tough group. They begin on Saturday, July the 5th. We'll find out tomorrow who Serena Wiegmann will pick.
Staying connected is vital for business. Sky Business sponsors this report.
How do you manage to keep your spirits up and the spirits of your teammates after challenges you may face?
Self-confidence in yourself and your own ability is such an important aspect to have.
I've had a number of injuries the last 1.5 or 2 years, and you know, they're taking a toll on my head at times.
You know, sometimes you just need to grab somebody and just give them a hug, you know, tell them that it'll be okay.
Professional footballers helping young people with their mental health. That's the aim of virtual soccer schools, alongside learning platform Amazing People Schools. Online, in person, and with AI technology.
My question is, how do you deal with stress on and off the pitch?
Football is the most powerful sport in the world. And utilising footballers, we just see them as players on the pitch, passing the ball and scoring goals, but they have so much more to offer. So at VSS, we're providing them with a platform to showcase their mental health strategies, their setbacks, how they deal with anxiety, pressure and growth mindset, just not on the pitch, but how they utilise it off the pitch as well.
Former Arsenal defender Thomas Vermaelen was the latest footballer to take part in the charity's first ever in-person session.
Allow yourself to be disappointed.
I enjoy passing on experiences, you know, if it's about mental health, my career, the pressure I've been through, giving my experience to the younger generation is something that I really like. In earlier years, we didn't really speak about it, you know.
Sky Business sponsors this report.
Time for a quick look at the weather before we go.
The ideal atmosphere, whatever the altitude. The weather, sponsored by Qatar Airways.
Well, it's looking unsettled for a while yet. More widespread showers and prolonged rain. The south, though, looking drier around the middle of this month. This evening, breezy with a scattering of showers in the southeast and the northwest. Just the odd shower elsewhere. Blustery showers are going to develop widely again overnight. Scotland's largely going to dry up inland, while Ireland, Northern Ireland, Wales and the south-west of England will see more general rain spreading in. That's going to clear from the west of Ireland later. The wind will ease in the north, while strengthening in the southwest. Central and southern Britain will be wet for a time tomorrow morning, but more prolonged rain will become largely confined to Scottish border counties by midday.